It really kills me to admit this, but honestly, travel is a luxury. And honestly, if you spend any time looking up flights or hotels, you might want to be like me and sometimes just ball up into a little, like a fetal position and just kind of cry in the corner. Things are getting outrageous. But fear not, because here are 6 steps to help build up that travel fund to take that dream vacation or simply to help you travel more that will actually help you succeed. So the first thing is going to be that you need to assess your situation. Everyone's financial situation is obviously going to be very different. Mine and yours probably not the same. You could be a millionaire or I could be the millionaire. I'm not a millionaire. Once you've figured out what kind of situation you're in, you need to figure out where you want to go and how much you generally are going to need to save. You want to look up things such as hotels, flights, any other lodging and transportation costs, food, activities. These things are all going to add up and kind of come together to be how you're going to figure out what you need to save for your trip. As you're doing your research on all of this, you could use a spreadsheet or a Notion template or even create something fun in Canva, just some sort of tracker so that you can visualize it. In general, having a tracker is going to help a lot. So you're going to want to put in those amounts for, say, your flights, hotels, activities. This is just to give you a general rough sum of where your goal is. Then you can add in later the contributions that you're doing so you know kind of where your efforts are. Even if you don't have a specific trip in mind, if you have a certain goal, say $5,000 towards a travel fund, something like this is also good. That way you can also just keep track of how you're doing. The next part of this is going to be that you want to set yourself up a goal or a set of goals. What I really recommend doing is creating a bunch of smaller goals and not just one large one, because this is really going to help you with the motivation factor. Say you want to save $5,000 to go on like a 2-week trip to Mexico. So it'll make a lot more sense for you to say, I'm going to save $500 by this date and then $1,000 by this date, instead of just saying, I'm going to save $5,000, which sounds like a really high number and could seem unachievable at the time that you're making it. So having just like little milestones along the way, and has been shown as well to just help really keep with motivation and will help really keep you consistent, because it's similar to that debt snowball method that is talked about in a lot of finance YouTube channels. It's just like that mind trick that just it keeps you going rather than the big scary number all at once, which could demotivate you really fast. Cruise ships in the background. If you do want to get a realistic idea of a long distance trip and what something like that might cost, you can go ahead and check out my video here about how much I spent for an entire week in South Korea, but go ahead and watch that after this one. The second part of this is you're going to want to create a savings plan, because honestly, saving money and wanting to save money are not the same thing. This is where you need to become very realistic with what your budget is and what you are able to spare from the money that's left over from your check. As I said at the very beginning, we might not like to admit it, but travel is a luxury, and things such as housing and bills and food all come first. So once you've covered the expenses that month for all of those things, that's when you can start designating money to once. With the preface of this entire thing here is that I would set aside your money for your travel plans before you set aside money for any other ones such as clothes or movie tickets, because obviously like this is a goal that you're working towards. So I would say housing, food, bills, then travel, then everything else. There's a couple of different ways though that you could do this. You could set aside a certain dollar amount, say you want to save $100 a month, or you could save a certain percentage of your check, say 5% of whatever it is you get paid. But there's also different ways that you can save this money. One option is you could do a manual transfer directly from your account. So you could send that money from your checking account to the savings account, or you could go to your HR department or just your job in general and have them send a certain percentage of your income to a separate savings account automatically for you. And so that could help and take a little bit of the mind work out of it. If you're able, I also would highly recommend that you do just automate this transaction, because it will take a lot of the mind work out of it, and you can almost treat it like it's a bill, and that might help a lot. It's something that you're automatically accounting for all the time. Will keep it saving, and you're like, oh, $50 travel account, automatic. That's personally what I do, and it has helped tremendously. But again, only do this if it's something that you are able to work into your own budget. If it's more flexible, like, oh, I can only do $100 this month, but next month I can do 80, then you're gonna want to do this manually, but just make it part of your payday routine to then send the money over. I also also would highly recommend that you keep your travel savings account in a high yield savings account or an HYSA. You're gonna earn a lot more interest in an account like this. I'm talking like 4.5, even upwards of 5% instead of like 0.01% interest. Like it is dramatic. So if you are not keeping your savings account, and also I would include your emergency savings in this is just a little tidbit, that's where all of your stuff should be. Keeping it away from your traditional accounts, you'll earn way more interest, and that's honestly just free money towards your trip. Personally, I have my travel and my emergency savings accounts both over at Marcus by Goldman Sachs. I've had them for probably 4 years now. They were recommended to me by my financial advisor. I really enjoy having them. They send me an email every time interest rates go up, and I am definitely earning way more money on those than I was with my traditional bank. However, please do your own research and go with the institution that does work best for you. The next step of this is going to be to cut expenses, and this tends to be the one that is the most painful. But if you want to save money, you're going to need to cut something somewhere, and this isn't going to be fun, but it doesn't have to necessarily be what every single person tells you that it should be, because you need to make it realistic for you. And if you cut too much out, you're going to lose your motivation, and that is just going to completely stall your goal. However, we also don't want to make your life miserable, but I'm also going to let you know that delayed gratification is absolutely worth it. With these recommendations, sort of go through and pick what works for you, but you don't have to do all of them. And honestly, maybe you don't have to do any of them if you're not in a situation where you need to necessarily cut back. Also, as an example, I'm not saying don't necessarily stop eating out all the time, but maybe if you're doing it 3 times a week, cut back to only 1. But that might just make the timeline for your saving a little bit longer. So a couple of ideas that you could cut back on are unused subscriptions, avoiding impulse buys and window shopping, cooking at home, turning off the lights when you're not using them, use coupons, buy store brands, shop at cheaper stores, find free activities instead of paid ones, and take public transportation or bike instead of driving. But only if it's possible. If you have no choice and you have to drive your car, drive your car. The next step is going to be to make more money. There are actually a lot of different ways that you can make more money these days, especially online with the way that the internet has just like exploded in the past few decades. So if you're really short on time, there's usually a way that you can still somehow make a couple extra bucks a week. Some ideas to make some extra money: getting a part-time job, babysitting, house sitting, or pet sitting, selling digital products or handmade products on Etsy, selling unused items on either Facebook Marketplace, eBay, or say Poshmark. You could freelance a skill or service. You could start a blog or a YouTube channel, but I'm gonna be honest, that one's a little bit more of a long-term game. You could do affiliate marketing, which is something you could combine with YouTube or blogging. You could take online surveys. Some of these are totally trash, but I have found some that are pay way better than others, and I will leave those linked in the description below if you want to take a look. You can participate in focus groups or user testing. These usually pay about $10 at minimum. You can get cash for walking. Your steps convert into points, and then you can convert points into either gift cards or PayPal deposits. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme, but it's something that you can work on and not really have to think too much. So it could be a pretty easy, $10 here and there. You could also do mystery shopping. This is something that I have tried. I will leave the link for the one that I have done before. I had a pretty good experience, but that could be some good extra cash if these are readily available in your city. You could also do online mock juries. Now, these are also not going to be a get-rich-quick scheme by any means. They're not always the most dependable. They can be relatively quick, and I think it was only like $5 or $7 at a time, but it usually only took me about 20 minutes. You can also do cash back for shopping with extensions such as Honey or Rakuten. This is not encouraging you to spend more money. It's just a way for you to get some more money back on things that you may potentially already be buying. If you can even get any of these to be an extra 100 or 2 a month, you'll actually notice that this will add up fairly quickly. The next thing you want to do is try to learn the points and miles game. There's actually a lot of different ways to do this, and the first thing I would recommend doing is signing up for all of the affiliate or member or loyalty programs with all of the hotels and airlines that you like to use. If you just go ahead and put your membership number on your reservations, once your reservation or trip is complete, you'll earn some sort of points with the airline or hotel program, which you can then turn into free flights, free snacks, free Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi, free hotel nights, and all of this can very quickly make the cost of your trip cheaper using points on money that you have already spent. If you do like to book third party through things such as like Expedia, you're gonna wanna make sure that you do add your frequent flyer numbers, or as I said, loyalty membership numbers onto your reservations so that you do make sure that you get those points. You can also do research on different travel credit cards that could help earn you valuable points on your highest categories of spending. So this is also not encouraging you to spend more. It's just to help maximize the rewards and returns that you could be receiving on money that you're already spending on your day-to-day, such as transportation and groceries. Transferable points are actually one of the most valuable currencies. And if you're able to earn enough, you could actually get entirely free vacations. Now, I will be completely honest with you. People like to flaunt this and say they've gotten $20,000 in free travel using such a credit card. And it usually requires quite a bit of spending to be able to pull things like that off. So you might be able to get one leg of your trip free or 2 or 3 nights of part of your trip free. So that is one way that you could potentially do this if you're not a very, very heavy spender. A lot of people who get things like that are typically, I think, doing business expenses or just have really high incomes that they're able to accumulate this number of points. For the average person like you and me, if you can just get enough to cover your flight or enough to maybe cover your hotel, it can still save you hundreds of dollars. Plus, the way that this works is that you want to get good redemption values on the points. The rule of thumb is that you really don't want to get a redemption value of anything less than 1 cent per point, and there's actually a formula for you to be able to calculate this. So say you're looking at a plane ticket and it costs $550, you want to take a look at what the point redemption value of that plane ticket is. You're able to do this on the travel website. There's going to be some sort of a button that says search for reward flights or use points, something along those lines. You want to click that and you want to find the exact same flight and see what the point value would be to redeem that flight. From there, you want to take the dollar value of the flight and you want to divide it by the point value of the flight. From there, you're going to get a decimal. And if you remember how to use your decimals, in this example, say you have that $550 flight, but in points, it only costs 35,000 points. If you were to divide that, you're going to get 0.0157 or about 1.6 cents per point. That's actually a pretty good value because it is over 1 cent per point. Of course, there's way better redemption values. If you struggle with decimals, don't worry. You can make this a little bit cleaner. You could just multiply 550 or whatever the dollar value is times 100 and then divide it by the point value, and then you can get a more solid number. So in this case, your calculator would read 1.57, which then you could round up to 1.6 cents per point. So I hope that makes sense. And if you are in the market for a new travel credit card, I am a huge fan of my Bilt MasterCard. It's also that one that gets you points on rent, which is a really easy way to accumulate points quickly. If you want to take a look, I will leave my referral link in the description below. And did I mention that it has no annual fee? It is the only travel credit card on the market with transferable points with no annual fee. It's incredible. The last thing you're going to want to do is to stay motivated. As I have said, one of the biggest things is keeping your motivation. Setting realistic goals that you can actually maintain are key. That's why you want to set lots of little goals and not just one large one. You want to make these goals SMART, otherwise known as specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. An example of a SMART goal in this case could be, I will save $300 a month for a total of $3,000 for my Caribbean cruise by March of 2006. It is specific, I can measure it, it's attainable, I would say it's realistic, and I did set a date, which is the biggest key. Make sure there is a timeline or make it time-bound, which will help to keep you accountable. Make sure you're keeping track of your progress, create a spreadsheet, use a Notion template, create something in Canva, just have something visual so you can see how you're doing. Also note that if you need to make adjustments to your plan at any point, that is totally okay. Life happens, and if you need to make an adjustment, I would say take care of that first. Travel is a luxury. Take care of whatever emergency you have and then try to get back on track. Take care of life, set those small goals. Once you meet them, you're gonna feel great. Keep track of your status, and before you know it, that travel account is going to be looking beautiful. So for years, I have preemptively saved. I won't even have a trip in mind, and I'll just be putting money into my travel account every single month. This has been really helpful to me because then when I do want to start planning, I'm not starting from zero and just putting a bunch of money on my credit card and not having the cash to actually pay it off, which don't do that. It's a very bad idea. I do recognize that a habit like that might not necessarily be possible for everyone, but if you can just start off small, that is better than nothing. So I hope this video was helpful. Please go ahead and hit that like button, and you might as well subscribe since you made it to the end of the video. video. If you're interested in reading my blog post on this, I will leave the link in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye! Slow.